Hey guys, I'm Angela and welcome back to Hobby Night. This week, we are going to talk about the new 40k seasons, plus the Tau are getting buffed and we've got a ton of new models to look at that are coming in 2022. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's hobby news. All right, let's go ahead and start with saying Happy New Year to you all, because we're in 2022, it's a new year, and I hope it's going to be a good one for you. But we've got a lot to talk about in the hobby news today, and we're gonna start by talking about the new Warhammer 40k seasons, which are not technically new because everything that comes in a season we've already seen a bunch of times already, but what is it exactly? Well, it's going to be a new season every 6 months. They're going to cover a different war zone, and they're going to include, of course, new releases like miniatures and that kind of thing. Now, the reason that this has gotten people a little bit upset and everything with Games Workshop is because the term seasons is often associated with EA Games, who don't exactly have the best consumer-friendly practices, so a lot of people are kind of feeling a little irritated with this. Plus, it's not anything actually new that they're giving to us, they've just renamed a release that they do. So what exactly is coming in Season 1? Well, it's going to focus on the return to Vigilus. We are getting a new Warzone book called Nachmund, Vigilus Alone, which is a rule book that's going to feature, of course, a new army rules. It's going to have a new Army of Renown in it, as well as a codex supplement. It's going to have legendary missions and, of course, Crusade rules for fighting for Vigilus, or fighting on Vigilus, rather. We're also getting, of course, a new Crusade Mission Pack. So if you're wanting to play a narrative game in Vigilus, you absolutely can with this mission pack. We're getting a new chapter-approved points update book, which is going to, of course, have any points updates that they feel are necessary to have right now. And then, of course, the last thing that we're getting is the chapter-approved Grand Tournament Mission Pack, which I think is going to be the thing most people are interested in, as that tends to be the one that most people are interested in, because it's going to have new missions and new secondary objectives for competitive players to use and for really anybody to use. But on top of this, we're also getting the Eldritch Omens box set, which is coming with it, which honestly is pretty cool. Like, that's my favorite thing about this new season, is that that box set is coming out, because of course it features the Chaos and the Eldar, which have been needing a desperate update and has hints towards us getting a new Eldar codex down the line, which I, for one, am very excited about. In addition, we also got a sort of tease to a new Kill Team box set that is also going to be tied to Nachmund, and it's going to probably feature, if I had to guess, more Eldar and Chaos, but it could also be maybe Eldar and Space Marines, who knows. But considering the, I think it was Octarius one, had some commandos in it, which kind of tied with the Beast Snagger release, I'm at least expecting Eldar in this box set. Again, this is nothing new. We've seen these things all before, but they just are calling it a new thing with seasons, and really, it's fine. I just wish they wouldn't print so many individual books. I wish they would just condense them into 1 or 2 books, so it's less content for people to have to actually purchase and spend money on in order to play their games in the official tournaments and that kind of thing. It's that time of the video where I interrupt to tell you about my Patreon and to let you know that we just added a Discord server which all tiers get access to. So if you're wanting a way to chat with me, share with me your projects, or just tell me what board games you're playing, definitely make sure to check the link below and check out my Patreon. Now let's go ahead and talk about that Tau buff that's coming, because if you didn't see, there was an article talking about the glorious Railgun and how it's going to absolutely obliterate all of your tanks and large monsters off of the board if you go up against one, because oh boy, those stats and the rules that are associated with it are very, very nice. So let's talk about exactly how the Railgun has been upgraded. The main big thing that's happened is it's got an AP -6 with a damage D3 +6. So pretty big, and you basically can't block it, but you really can't block it because you don't get your invulnerable saves when it fires at you, which is devastating. In addition to that, every time it gets a successful wound, the target suffers an additional 3 mortal wounds on top of any additional damage that was received. So this is absurdly brutal. It's definitely going to just knock out tanks. Now, I know Necron players can use one of their Catan shards to sort of counteract this, and it's still going to be hard for the Tau to maybe beat that. But I feel like for everybody else, if you've got tanks or big monsters, oh boy, they're gonna be hurting if you're playing against Tau. Plus, there's also a new ability called the Targeting Array, which allows the hammerhead selected to shoot, that is shooting, it can re-roll one hit roll when resolving attacks. So it just makes it that much more likely to actually hit you, which is pretty solid. If the Tau player wants to spend 1 CP, they can actually make that Railgun really effective against hordes as well with the submunitions stratagem. Costs 1 CP, you roll 1d6 for each enemy model in the targeted unit, adding 1 to each roll for the unit of 11 or more. So again, it really is effective against hordes. And on a 4+, that unit suffers a mortal wound, up to 8 total. So you can really knock down a big horde unit really easily if you spend the CP on it. So it's not only good against monsters and tanks, it also can be used against your infantry, which just makes it all around terrifying, but is also incredibly thematic to the Tau. I mean, they're supposed to be the shootiest shooters, right? They should have like pretty strong guns, and I feel like this is finally a way for them to have that. I think the Tau are looking pretty good, honestly. I'm interested in that codex and I want to see more of what the rules are going to be. And I also want to see what new models we're going to get for them, because I suspect we'll see more than just the few that we've already seen released already, or announced rather, already. The tease of all the new models that are coming in 2022. It was actually a pretty exciting one, if I do say so myself, and I want to go ahead and suss out with you guys what I think might be coming in 2022. So the first thing that we see is a plasma cannon, and I think this particular shot, along with 2 other ones that we see in the trailer, are all tied to the same model because I think it's a Chaos Knight. If you look at it, it's definitely a Chaos plasma cannon of some variety, and then later on in the same preview, we get a shot of some exhaust ports, as well as a shot of a vulture that is on what looks like a pauldron or a shoulder piece. And if you look at the scale of that vulture to the shoulder piece, it has to be a pretty large model. And I think it is a new Chaos Knight coming, which has me so excited because I love the big chunky knights, and I especially like when they're spiky. I might even paint one up Nurgle themed. So that's pretty cool. Then we got to take a look at a guy with a very thin arm holding a lantern, whom I think is tied to the Curse City relaunch, which is going to include some expansion. So I expect him and one other model that we'll see later are going to be in the same Curse City expansion. Then we had something that at first glance kind of looked like an OCARC Bone Reaper model, but if you look closely, it actually looks a little bit more bug-like, almost like Tyranid. Except I don't actually think it's a Tyranid model. I think it's tied to the Gene Stealer cult because it looks like a big cape or maybe ornamentation that the character has. And there's a scythe later on that also has a Tyranid claw attached to a man-made, I'm blanking on the name, handle. That's the word I was looking for. So a man-made handle. So I definitely think we're looking at some more Gene Stealer cult models coming, which makes sense because we know that their codex is coming as well. Then after that, we got a look at a glorious new Farseer. Of course, we only got to really see some of the robes and emblems on him, but I bet it's gonna look amazing and I'm really, really excited for it. And that was immediately followed by what looked like a Drukhari model. Maybe a witch elf, I think it was, but it looks cool. I'm excited for that as well. I would love to see some new Drukhari stuff. And then we also got a flash of what looked like an actual Tyranid model, something maybe winged with claws and everything. I mean, that describes a lot of Tyranids, but it's cool to see that we're also getting some more bugs coming down the line. And then we got the next look at the other Curse City model that I think is tied to the same expansion of the Candle Boy we saw before. He's holding a book, there's an emphasis on somebody writing, but it's got the same very thin limbed arm, and it's painted in a similar color scheme, so I definitely think they might be tied together. Perhaps it's one of those larger models that has a bunch of small models on it together and they're all in a procession or something, but it really has Dark Soul and Bloodborne vibes to me. I'm really digging it. And then finally, probably the most glorious thing that we got to see in this preview and this little tease is the peek at what the new Avatar of Khaine model is going to look like. all, like, I mean, the paint job on the hand being held up looked amazing. I can't wait to see what the full sculpt looks like. I actually have one of the old metal Avatar of Khaine models that's completely, I think, unpainted, so it would be something that maybe I could paint up and then do a comparison when those models come out. I don't know. It just is a really cool thing, and I'm always hyped about new models coming, and we've already got a pretty big lineup for 2022. This just adds a bunch more cool things to that lineup. Last but not least, we have something from Age of Sigmar coming, and honestly, it looks pretty cool because I don't actually see the Eidolith Deepkin represented very much in their box sets. So we've got a new box set coming for Age of Sigmar. It's called Fury of the Deep, and it of course features the Eidolith Deepkin and the Fire Slayers, which are the dwarves, and I actually think the dwarves look really, really cool in this, but the Deepkin also are pretty rad. It's going to have 43 miniatures in it, has 2 new HQ models, one of which is Alkelian Thrallmaster, which is your Eidolith Deepkin. He has a very angry eel, which I really, really like the sculpt of. I do think the underwater creatures are probably my favorite thing about the Deepkin and then all the sea elves and everything, just because I like having familiars with characters, and they're just really, really cute when you see when they're out of water and it's implied that they're on land and stuff. I don't know, it tickles me a lot. So the eel, I just love. There's also a lot of really great detail on this mini, even though I don't actually think the pose is super thrilling. There's a lot of really cool tattoo details, as well as like the barnacles on the base. Like there's just a lot of little nice touches that I really enjoy. Then you've got Alric Flamekeeper. Alric? Yes, Alric Flamekeeper, which is the dwarf, and he is super handsome. I absolutely love the helmet. Again, they do a great job with the detail on this. It just honestly looks like a pretty fun set if you're into both of those factions. It's also going to include a booklet that contains lore, some rules, and a couple of new battle plans. It'll of course have the wall scrolls that you'll need for all of the models in it. There'll be tokens, and then a small version of the Age of Sigmar rulebook. So if you are wanting to jump into Age of Sigmar, both of these factions excite you, this is a good way for you to jump in pretty easily and go ahead and just get straight started with the game. All right, that has been it for this week in hobby news. I'm really looking forward to 2022. I hope that you guys are as well. I have a lot of content planned, including continuing the news segments and broadening that out to continue to further include more hobby news and everything like that. Not just focused on Games Workshop, but across the board. I want to talk about more board games, other miniatures, paints that are coming out, all sorts of things. Before I fully head off and send you guys on your way to enjoy the beginning of your new year and everything, I wanted to say thank you to my patrons. We would not be here without you guys. You guys help make sure that content like this can continue to be made. So I thank you guys so much for being there and supporting us on Patreon. I have been Angela. You guys have been watching Hobby Night, and I'll see you next time. Bye.